So guys, in the last 3 months, we've seen 90% of our DeFi legacy clients exceed their yearly income targets. And that's not from chasing meme coins, that's not from diving into super high risk positions or actively managing their positions. It's from just having a simple strategy in place and benefiting from the overall market circumstances. As all of us probably know, Bitcoin and the entire crypto market has seen a huge run over the past 90 days. Bitcoin going from 60,000 bucks to reaching that big price target of 100,000 bucks. Now, while most DeFi investors probably fell short to impermanent loss, which basically means that it would have been better for them to stick their money in Bitcoin as opposed to actually put it in liquidity pools, our DeFi legacy members are not only beating divergence loss during this time period, they are also exceeding their yearly income targets, which means if they're estimated to make about 100% per year, they're making more than a 100% per year goal. The majority of us are doing roughly a 150% APR on the portfolios right now. Even me personally, somebody that targets 10% per month on my overall portfolio, I am generating over a 200% APR on my current positions. One of them is ETH Aether doing a 220% APR. The other one is Ethereum and Aave doing a 175% APR. And the beauty of this is, once again, I am not getting beat by somebody that just is holding Aether or holding Aave token. I have a $675 profit against somebody holding Ethereum and Aether in the market. And keep in mind, I have $687 in earnings. And then I have a $378 profit against somebody holding the market over on Ethereum to Aave. And keep in mind, I only have $400 in earnings. So those ratios right there are really damn good if you guys don't already know. That means that the majority of my earnings isn't going to cover any impermanent or divergence loss. The majority of my earnings is actually profit, basically. Anyways, the strategy that I'm going to be talking about today is the same exact strategy that Zach went through and is now making over $180,000 per year. We actually made an entire video on this. You can see it over on our Build a Wealth channel. It's the same strategy that one of our legacy members, GuapX, is using to already generate $1,800, and that's a 428% APR in his portfolio. Even some of our DeFi Excel members are killing it, like Quali, which currently has profit versus HODL on literally every single one of their positions, and they have very, very solid ratios, just like my personal portfolio. Frank, which is actually one of our DeFi legacy members, which currently has an APR of 395%, has an overall profit of $2,300, and has $1,500 in earnings, outperforming divergence loss yet again. And then, of course, we have Jason earning $1,500 per week off of a $16,000 AVAX to USDC position over on LFJ. So that right there is proof that this strategy doesn't just work for me, but also works for people that just got into this industry and people that went through this exact system that I'm going to be revealing today. Now, a lot of DeFi investors are looking for the steps that they need to take in order to succeed in this industry, but that's the wrong approach to take. The first thing that you need to do before you take success steps is to take steps that prevent failure, basically. You need to understand what causes most DeFi investors to fail so you can avoid that and then take the steps to success. Otherwise, you're going to end up like most DeFi investors, taking the right steps on the trail and then going off path and actually failing. So the first thing I want to mention is most DeFi portfolios and investors are scattered. They have positions all over the place. Maybe they have like 5 positions on Orca, 2 on Radium, 6 on Uniswap, a bunch on VFAT, and like they have positions all over the place. What I like to say to that, you do not need 20 positions. You do not need to be as diversified as you probably are in your HODL portfolio. The reason why is because HODL portfolios do not really require much management. DeFi portfolios, on the other hand, they require a decent amount of management, basically, which is why you want to make sure that you are not trying to diversify too much on these guys, because if you do, you're going to go through hell trying to manage your entire portfolio. It is not going to be a fun game, and you're going to end up seeing that in performance, basically. What I like to say to that is pick like 5 positions or so, at least at the very, very start, if that, and focus on those 5 positions and get comfortable with those 5 positions. And then from there, if you want to diversify a little bit more, spend more time, spend a couple hours per day, so be it. Do it, right? And ramp that up to 10, maybe 12 or 15, whatever you want to do. We have legacy clients that have 20. I personally have 5 positions in my portfolio because I like a passive income approach. I do not like an active income approach. I already have an active income approach, and that's making these videos right here. As far as my portfolio goes, I'm spending about 3 to 5 hours per week on the actual portfolio itself, and that's to manage 5 positions. That's not bad whatsoever, and I'm getting compensated pretty well for it, earning over a 200% APR right now. So again, do not be scattered. That's the worst thing that you can do. Number 2, don't try to automate everything, basically. This is one of the things that most DeFi investors try to do, and they fail to realize, hey, if it was that easy and if we could just have robots do it, everybody would have robots doing it for them. Oftentimes what happens with the robots and with the automations is they will rebalance you until you die, basically. And what that means is if you start with $1,000 and maybe that 1K was expected to appreciate to, let's just say 5K over a 60-day time frame, that's fine, right? Whereas if you're constantly rebalancing during that time frame and you're having automations do it based on specific parameters and not actually factoring in market fundamentals and just basic technical analysis, then what's going to happen is maybe you have 60 rebalances during this time frame, right? And then of course that 1K is now worth, let's just say 3K or something like that. Most investors will look at this and be like, oh man, I made $2,000. That's great. But what they won't realize is maybe that 2K, if we were to break it down, 1K was made from earnings, another 1K was made from price appreciation. Whereas over here, 4K could have just been made from price appreciation, and they wouldn't have even had to take the risk of investing into different liquidity pools and yield generation strategies, basically. Of course, we also have emotions. This is one of the biggest things I want to discuss today. Emotions ultimately lead to bad decisions. If you've ever been in an argument with your spouse, your partner, right, and you have emotions built up during that argument, the argument always goes worse. Sometimes both of you just need to take a step back, take a chill pill, collect your emotions, and then make a decision on how you want to move forward. Because if you make an emotional decision, oftentimes you say something that maybe you end up regretting, right? I know I've personally been there. As far as emotions go, you want to make sure that you are factoring those out when investing. Sometimes you just need to take a step back. This is also what leads a lot of DeFi investors to having FOMO, or of course FUD in the market, right? They hear something online and then of course they just believe it and they're like, oh, I got to sell all my cryptocurrency. Oh, the bull market's over, right? When we really got another 6 to 10 months in play, basically. Other times they're like, oh my gosh, everybody's buying this. I have to go throw my money into it, right? I got to go invest into fart coin or whatever meme coin is trending this week, basically, because they have FOMO or they have FUD. You need to be able to cut those emotions out of your investing. And then of course, the next thing is no strategy. Investors that do not have a strategy will ultimately end up losing. And this kind of falls into play with being scattered in your DeFi investments. If you don't have a strategy within your portfolio, you are going to lose money, even if you're making money right now, because you don't know what to do with those profits. You don't know where to park those safely. You don't know how to compound. You don't know how to take profit. You're kind of just playing on a whim. We oftentimes have people come to DeFi Legacy that are making maybe $5,000, $10,000 a month in passive income, right? We also have other investors that come with like $500 to $1,000 a month in DeFi passive income. Point is, they're succeeding, but they know that they're getting lucky, right? And they know that they don't have a strategy. They're kind of just playing it by ear and going about it all wrong based on luck because the market's going up. So then they come into DeFi Legacy, they implement a strategy, and of course they see immense success, kind of like these stories that we highlighted at the beginning of this video. So this is what most DeFi investors do wrong. All of these 4 things right here. And you need to make sure that you are not doing those 4 things wrong before you start trying to do things right. So now I want you to listen very, very carefully to the next couple minutes of this video, because this is where I'm going to reveal what you need to do right. So the first thing that we're going to go ahead and do is blueprint our portfolio. That is the first phase of the DeFi Legacy. So I want you guys to listen very, very carefully for the remainder of this video, because now I'm going to be exposing what exactly you need to do right and how you can actually do it correctly. And then of course, there will be an opportunity for you to work directly with myself as well as my team that has helped scale over 150 different DeFi portfolios. But of course, that opportunity is only there if you want to take advantage of it. You're not required. You can take the free value from this video and leave if you really want to. But with that being said, if you're enjoying the content here so far, make sure to drop a like and of course, turn on subscriptions with notifications. That way you get notified when we upload on constant value packed videos like this. Anyways, what I'm going to be revealing is something called the DeFi formula. And the DeFi formula is our proprietary system within the DeFi Legacy program for actually building out the portfolio and putting a strategy in place, right? So it's not about scaling the portfolio. It's about building the portfolio and laying the groundwork, actually generating some income. And then of course, when we want to dive into it, we could dive into scaling the portfolio. Point is, the first thing that we do in the DeFi formula is we blueprint. So what exactly is blueprinting, right? Obviously, we're mapping out the portfolio. We're trying to have in mind what our risk tolerance is, stuff along those lines, but it goes far deeper than that. I want to talk about a couple different things that you should do. Number one, you should determine positions, right? What type of positions do you want to have in your portfolio? Do you want to have crypto stable? Do you want to have crypto? Or do you want to have stable? Determine the allocations to each of them. And that kind of brings me to my next point, capital allocation timeline. How much money is going to be invested within the first month? How much money is going to be invested within the second month, the third month, so on and so forth? Are you going to be dollar cost averaging into the portfolio? All of this is important. And the reason why is because most investors do not actually have a capital allocation plan. They say, oh, I got 100 grand, right? And they just throw 50 grand right into it. And guess what? They make a mistake, which loses them about 20% because they made a mistake, and that's going to happen, right? But all of a sudden they're losing 20% on 50 grand, which is half their capital, right? Instead, if they just went in with say 15 grand and they made a 20% mistake on that, they wouldn't have lost nearly as much money, right? So by having that capital allocation plan and scaling in, you're going to be able to minimize the amount of capital that you make mistakes on. Now, that being said, some might argue, okay, well, they'll just put a grand in, which is 1% of my overall capital basically, and I'll make a 20% mistake on that and lose $200, right? Point is, if you put a grand in and you get 100 grand of capital, majority of the time, you're not going to be as focused on the grand that you have in those pools, right? So ultimately, you might actually lose 30, 40, 50% on that grand, right? But you need to have some skin in the game, something that you're willing to lose basically, but not something that's too much that's going to disrupt disrupt your entire portfolio if you make a mistake on it. And of course, right now, the mistakes that people are making aren't necessarily ones that are losing them money, but ones where they are getting completely killed by divergence or impermanent loss, right? And that's because the market's going up. It's hard to lose money when the market's going up, unless of course you're chasing meme coins or random assets that don't have any utility. We're also going to determine the risk tolerance, and the best way to kind of do this is not just say, oh, I'm a mid-risk investor, right? Because ultimately you're investing into crypto, and if you have a decent allocation here like me, you're probably a high-risk investor in general, right? But in cryptocurrency, you might be a mid-risk investor. That's what we want to break down. But as far as how we actually determine the risk tolerance, I want you to determine your allocations first. Like, how much are you going to allocate to stuff that's like Ethereum to USD? How much are you going to allocate to stuff that's like Ethereum to BTC, right? Versus how much are you going to allocate to stuff that's like, let's just say Sol Render, right? Assuming like Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Sol are the ones that are like blue chip assets, I guess you could say, and other assets that are in the top 100 are like mid-risk assets, and then of course past the top 100 are like obviously high-risk assets. Let's just go by that rule of thumb, and then I want you to map out the returns. That's going to help you determine your risk tolerance, and you'll want to go through actually simulate the performance, like the downside and everything like that. But anyways, that's enough about the blueprint phase. Now we get fun. We dive into the actual construct phase. The way I like to think about this is actually like building a house, because it's kind of like what we're doing. We blueprint the house as phase 1. After we have the blueprints made, we can start construction basically, which is phase 2. And within the construct phase, the first thing that we're going to do is find positions, right? Because we actually need some positions to go out and invest our capital into. Now, every position that we find, we're not going to invest into. That's going to be way too much to manage. We're going to find maybe 20 positions or so, and then we're going to start to find ranges for those positions using a specific framework that we actually call the range framework, right? And maybe we find ranges for like 15 different positions or something like that. And then we start to simulate the performance. And maybe we're doing this for like 10 different positions. And then we move on to the launch phase, which is where we actually open the doors to our house, right? It's ready to be lived in basically. And that's where, of course, we're going to deploy our capital into positions basically. And maybe we deploy capital into 5 positions. So you can see this is kind of like a funnel, right? We started with 20 positions, and we ended up all the way down here at 5 positions basically. The reason why is because each step that we take is slowly narrowing it down. We find 20 positions that look good. We actually go out and find the ranges for 15 of them because we realized, oh, 5 of them don't look that good. And then after we like found the ranges, right, we realized, okay, well, 5 of these not worth simulating the position performance. And then after we simulate position performance, we're like, okay, 5 of these don't make sense. And then we end up with 5 basically. That's the primary goal of launch. Obviously, there's some other minor things that are happening within the launch phase, but next phase, and this is the last phase before we scale, this is manage, right? And manage is really like creating a management flow and optimizing phase, right? It's not putting advanced strategies into your portfolio, but rather just making some optimizations on what you're currently doing. And then also, of course, you're going to be rebalancing, you're going to be tracking performance, you're going to learn how to actually track your performance, which is going to be done through metrics finance. And then optimizing is also very, very important. That's where you're making sure that the income that you're generating is the max possible income that you can generate. Because if you're doing 100% APR, but you're out of range 50% of the time, if you were to just get in range 100% of the time, that 100% APR all of a sudden turns into a 200% APR. So with that being said, this is exactly how we help you in DeFi Legacy build out your passive income portfolio to help you achieve your goals. Whether it's quitting your 9-to-5 job, whether it's creating supplemental income, whether it's expanding your traditional financial investments, whether it's just earning more money on your cryptocurrency so you can have a compounding strategy and maximize bull run returns, we're tailoring that portfolio to you so that way you can achieve your goals. Pretty simple process. Now, I want to go ahead and give you the high-level overview of this in action steps. As mentioned in the blueprint phase, we are determining what type of allocations we want to have to specific position types and also mapping out our allocation timeline. Highly recommend that you create a Google Doc and you map this stuff out. We have structured docs within DeFi Legacy, but for the time being, if you're just looking to kind of do this process on your own, then you want to make sure that you create yourself some structured docs as well. And when it comes to construct, everybody in DeFi Legacy is using metrics finance, right? And that's because it's the easiest to use when you're getting started in DeFi. Later on, we'll continue to use metrics finance for the majority of our positions, but we'll branch off of metrics and also start to use DeFi Llama and other DeFi yield finding tools. But you'll find the positions on metrics finance discover, you'll find the ranges on the simulate page, and you'll simulate the position performance by using CoinGecko, mapping out potential gains or of course losses on assets, and then simulating that through the simulate page on metrics finance. And then when it comes to deploying capital, metrics will tell you how much of each asset that you need, and then you can actually dive into the decentralized exchanges themselves and deploy capital. Rather than using automation tools that charge you high fees, you will want to use the decentralized exchanges directly. And after we deploy the capital, when it comes to rebalancing, once again, we can use automation tools. We don't recommend it. We teach you exactly how to use the platforms directly, so you don't have to pay those fees. Ultimately, it's a how much is my time worth question. If you have, let's just say, if it's going to take you 30 minutes to rebalance a position and you could pay $5 in automation cost, is your 30 minutes worth more than $5? Probably. So go ahead and just use the automation, right? Whereas if you get good at it and it only takes you 5 minutes to rebalance a position and it's going to cost you, like, let's just say $25, right? I am fine spending the 5 minutes on the portfolio basically because I'm trying to maximize the returns from my portfolio. And of course, tracking, this is all automated through Metrics Finance, but we also have a manual tracking software. Highly recommend, if it's not a Metrics Finance, you create yourself a little spreadsheet that maps out deployments, withdrawals, claims, compounds, unclaimed fees, all that stuff, so that way you can see overall profit loss. And of course, optimization. This is just making sure that you're in range. This is making sure that your range isn't way too broad to the point where you are never managing it, and you want to just dive into your overall portfolio to make sure that it is doing the income that you want it to do and it has a low amount of risk while doing that. Now, with that being said, if you deem that you want some support through this process and you don't want to make all the beginner mistakes that you're probably going to make, and you don't want to kind of go through this process of being scattered, trying to automate everything because you're overall just stressed out about the amount of time that you have to input into this thing, and of course not being able to manage your emotions and have a strategy in place, then I highly recommend that you check out the link right below this video. It's DeFiLegacy.com. It's going to walk you through kind of our process and how we go through each individual phase, and there'll be a quick application that you can fill out to make sure that you are a good fit for the DeFi Legacy program. But with that being said, I want to play you a short clip from my interview that I recently did with one of our DeFi Legacy clients, Zach.
That 45K is making me weekly what about between $150 to $180,000 annual salary would be.
So let's break that down. Zach started with $45,000 in DeFi. His $45,000 is now making him $180,000 per year, which if we were to break that up into more short-term numbers, that is $3,400 a week. If we were to look at daily, that's $494 per day, almost $500 per day. And if we were to just look at that over a monthly horizon, that's nearly $15,000 per month. And that is straight from his DeFi portfolio where he started with $45,000. Again, the reason why our approach at Builder Wealth works is because we help you with these 4 things first, as opposed to just trying to get you success and then you end up losing money later on after maybe already getting some success. We prevent you from being scattered all over the place by having comprehensive tracking systems that are basically fully automated. With that being said, we help you cut out those automations so that way you can minimize the amount that you're spending on automations and make sure that you're rebalancing your portfolio while spending as little time as possible, but also getting better results than if you were to use automations. We help you cut out the emotions when it comes to investing and not chase meme coins, not chase FOMO, not have FUD on assets that don't necessarily need FUD, stuff like that. And then of course, we dive into the strategy, right? And we put a strategy in place, which is this DeFi formula strategy right here for building the portfolio, where we follow this process of determining the positions, setting out our capital allocation timeline, building out our risk tolerance framework. And then of course, we dive into finding positions. We have a framework directly for this. It's called Fate. We have a framework for finding ranges, which is called Range. But we'll find the ranges for positions, we'll simulate the performance, and we're just kind of narrowing those positions down, 20 to 15 to 10 to 5 basically, and we actually deploy capital on those 5. And then after we've launched, we move into decorating the house, if I were to go back to my previous example. Now we need to rebalance, we need to do tracking, we need to optimize, and we're going to help you through that process. We don't just give you a course and tell you good luck, here's what you need to do. We actually dive into your portfolio each and every single phase, provide you with critical feedback, and help move the needle on your journey. So with that being said, if you guys are interested in establishing long-term wealth through decentralized finance and truly looking to build out your DeFi passive income portfolio in a strategic manner, and you believe that Builder Wealth is the right partner for you and your portfolio, then there's going to be a link right below this video that you guys can head over to. You can watch another short little video on that page, and then after that, you can apply to join the DeFi Legacy program. And assuming you're a good fit, you'll hop on the call with one of my team members. We'll confirm you're a good fit, but we'll also confirm that Builder Wealth is the right fit for you. And then of course, we'll get the ball rolling as soon as possible from there to help you establish your own financial legacy through decentralized finance. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to drop a like, subscribe with notifications turned on. I will see you guys in the next one, and peace out.